The stars looked the same as they always did. Cold, distant, beautiful. Commander Tae-jin stood at the observation window of Sentinel Station Gamma and watched them twinkle in the darkness of space. He had been doing this job for 15 years now. Watching, waiting, protecting a secret that could destroy everything. The station was huge. It floated at the edge of human space where the known galaxy ended and the unknown regions began. Most people thought it was just a military outpost, a place to watch for dangers coming from unexplored space. They were right, but they were also very wrong. Tae-jin was 52 years old. His hair had turned gray at the sides. His face showed lines from years of stress and difficult decisions. He rarely smiled anymore. How could he? Every day he carried the weight of knowing what humanity was hiding out here. The door behind him opened with a soft sound. He turned to see Dr. Hanul walking toward him. She was young, only 34, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She was the station's lead scientist, studying alien signals and languages. She was brilliant, but she didn't know the full truth yet. "Commander, we have a situation," Hanul said. Her voice was tight with concern. "I found something strange in the signals from beyond the border." Tae-jin felt his stomach tighten. "Show me," he said. They walked to the science lab. Hanul pulled up her data on a large screen. Lines and patterns filled the display. To most people, it would look like random noise. But Tae-jin could see what worried her. The patterns repeated. They had structure. They meant something. "This transmission is old," Hanul explained. "Maybe thousands of years old. But it mentions humans. How is that possible? We only joined the galactic community 200 years ago." Tae-jin said nothing. He stared at the screen, his mind racing. "This was bad. Very bad. There is more," Hanul continued. "The message talks about something called a reckoning, and it warns about a great power that should never be found." She looked at Tae-jin. "Do you know what this means?" "No," Tae-jin lied. He had become good at lying over the years. "Keep studying it, but tell no one else about this." "Understood?" Hanul frowned but nodded. She trusted him. That made the lying harder. Later that day, a ship appeared on their sensors. It was massive and sleek. The design was Vryn, one of the most powerful alien civilizations in the galaxy. The Vryn were old, intelligent, and dangerous. They had been traveling between stars for thousands of years before humans even invented the wheel. Lieutenant Ji-won, the tactical officer, reported the ship's arrival. She was 28, young and eager. She believed humanity should be bolder, stronger, more aggressive in claiming their place among the stars. She didn't understand why the commanders were always so careful. "Should we raise shields?" Ji-won asked. "No," Tae-jin said calmly. "They claim to be on a peaceful mission. We will treat them as guests." The Vryn ship docked with the station. Ambassador Kresh came aboard with her delegation. She was tall and elegant with skin that shimmered like silver. Her eyes were completely black, but they saw everything. Tae-jin met her in the main docking bay. "Welcome to Sentinel Station Gamma, Ambassador. How can we help you?" "We are conducting a survey of this region," Kresh said smoothly. Her voice was musical, almost hypnotic. "We wanted to ensure that human operations here are not disrupting the natural balance of space." It was a polite excuse, but Tae-jin knew better. The Vryn were looking for something. He just hoped they wouldn't find it. Over the next few days, Kresh and her team toured the station. They asked many questions. What were the station's defensive capabilities? How many ships did humans have in this region? What were they protecting? Tae-jin answered carefully. He showed them the public areas. He gave them basic information, but he kept them away from the lower levels, away from the secrets. On the 5th day, Engineer Baum came to Tae-jin's quarters late at night. Baum was 45, practical and direct. He had been with Tae-jin for 10 years. He was one of the few people on the station who knew the truth. "The Vryn are scanning us," Baum said quietly. "Deep scans. They are looking for something specific. Can they detect it?" Tae-jin asked. "Not yet. But if they keep looking, eventually they might find traces." Tae-jin stood and walked to his window. Below the station, hidden in the depths of space, lay the reason for everything. The secret that humanity had kept for 50 years. The discovery that could change the entire galaxy. They called it the Archive. An ancient alien facility filled with technology and knowledge from a civilization that existed millions of years ago. Humanity had found it by accident, and they had made a choice. Instead of sharing it with the galaxy, they hid it. They studied it in secret. They used its knowledge to make themselves stronger. It was the biggest lie in human history, and Tae-jin was one of its guardians. That night, the station's alarms began to scream. 7 massive ships had appeared from the unknown regions. They were huge, dark, and moving straight toward the station. Their design was like nothing anyone had seen before. Ji-won rushed to the bridge. Bom ran to engineering. Hanul stared at her screens in shock, and Tae-jin stood very still, knowing that everything was about to change. The secrets humanity had been keeping were about to be tested, and the stars themselves would tremble at what came next. The 7 ships hung in space like dark mountains. They did not move. They did not speak. They just waited there, massive and silent. On the bridge of Sentinel Station Gamma, everyone held their breath. "Try hailing them again," Commander Tae-jin ordered. His voice was calm, but his hands were tight on the armrests of his chair. The communication officer shook her head. No response. The mysterious fleet had been there for 3 hours now. Not moving, not talking, just watching. Lieutenant Ji-won could not stand it anymore. "Commander, we should scramble our fighters. Show them we are ready to defend ourselves." "No," Tae-jin said firmly. "We hold position." Ji-won felt frustrated. Why were they just sitting here? Sir, they could attack at any moment. "We should be ready." "I said no, Lieutenant." Tae-jin's tone left no room for argument. Ambassador Kresh appeared on the bridge. Her silver face showed concern. The Vrin were not easily scared, but even she looked worried. "Commander, my ship must leave immediately. We cannot be caught in whatever this is." "I am sorry, Ambassador, but I cannot allow that. It is too dangerous for you to travel right now. You are safer here with us." Kresh's black eyes studied him. "You are keeping us here for another reason, are you not?" Tae-jin did not answer. He could not let the Vrin leave. They might report what they had seen. They might bring more questions. More investigations. Down in the science lab, Dr. Hanul was working frantically. The chaos on the bridge gave her a chance. She accessed the restricted files that she had been curious about for weeks. Files labeled with high security codes. Files about something called Project Threshold. Her hands shook as she read. This could not be real. But the data was right there in front of her. Official reports. Classified documents, photographs. 50 years ago, a human exploration ship had found something. An ancient facility at the very edge of space. Inside it was a massive database. Technology that was millions of years old. Knowledge that could change everything. They called it the archive. Hanul read about the technologies inside. Engines that could bend space and time. Machines that could turn energy into solid matter. Ways to transfer human consciousness into machines. Weapons that could destroy entire star systems. And humanity had kept it secret. For 50 years, they had lied to every other civilization in the galaxy. They studied the archive alone. They used its knowledge to build better ships, better weapons, better defenses. And they told no one. Hanul felt sick. She understood science. She understood progress. But this was wrong. The knowledge in the archive could cure diseases. It could solve the energy crisis. It could help billions of people across the galaxy, and humans were hoarding it. Suddenly, a message came through on all channels. A deep, resonant voice filled every speaker on the station. "We are the remnant seekers. We are the children of those who came before. We know that the sacred archive exists in this region. We have returned to claim what is ours. Any civilization that possesses our heritage must surrender it now. This is not a request." On the bridge, Ambassador Kresh turned to Tae-jin. Her voice was sharp. The archive. She had heard stories about it. Ancient legends. She had never believed they were true. "Do humans know about this archive?" she demanded. "We know as much as you do, Ambassador. These old legends exist in many cultures." Kresh did not believe him. "You are lying. I can see it in your eyes." Before Tae-jin could respond, Hanul burst onto the bridge. Her face was pale. She was carrying a datapad. "Commander, I need to speak with you. Right now." In private, Tae-jin saw the look in her eyes. He knew she had found out. He stood slowly and walked with her to his ready room. The door closed behind them. "You have been lying to me," Hanul said. Her voice shook with anger. "To everyone. For 50 years, humanity has been hiding the greatest discovery in history." Tae-jin sat down heavily. "Yes, why? The knowledge in the archive could save lives. It could end suffering. Why keep it secret?" "Because it could also end everything," Tae-jin said quietly. He looked old suddenly, tired. Sit down, Hanyul. Let me tell you the whole truth. He told her about the first team that entered the archive. About what they found there. Yes, there was incredible technology, but there was also something else. A warning. The civilization that built the archive had destroyed itself. They had gone too far. Created something they could not control. Something called the synthesis. The synthesis can merge consciousness with quantum reality, Taejin explained. It promises godlike power, immortality, perfect knowledge. But every civilization that tried to use it either destroyed itself or became something no longer recognizable as alive. So we studied everything carefully. We took only what we could understand, what we could use safely, and we kept the synthesis locked away. Because if the galaxy knew about the archive, there would be war. Everyone would want it. And someone would eventually try to use the synthesis. And that would be the end of everything. Hanyul sat in silence for a long moment. You should have told people. Let them make their own choice. Maybe, Taejin admitted. But we made our choice. And now we have to live with it. Before Hanyul could respond, Engineer Baum's voice came through on the intercom. Commander, you need to see this. The Remnant Seekers. They are not here to negotiate. They are preparing to search every system in this sector. They will find the archive eventually. Taejin and Hanyul returned to the bridge. On the screen, they could see the 7 dark ships beginning to spread out. Scout vessels were launching. Long-range scanners were powering up, and then a new message came through. From Earth, from High Command. Encrypted and urgent, Taejin read it alone. His face went white. The message was short. Prepare Protocol Omega. If necessary, use it. The archive must not fall into other hands, no matter the cost. Taejin looked out at the stars, at the 7 dark ships, at the future rushing toward them like a storm. Everything was about to change, and there was no going back. Commander Taejin gathered his senior staff in a secure room. Lieutenant Ji-won, Engineer Baum, and Dr. Hanyul sat around the table. The truth could not be hidden anymore. Not from them. They needed to know what they were protecting. Lieutenant Ji-won, what I am about to tell you is classified at the highest level. You will understand why we have been so careful. Ji-won listened as Taejin explained everything. The archive, the ancient technology, the 50 years of secrets. Her eyes grew wider with each detail. When he finished, she sat back in her chair. This is incredible, she whispered. Then her expression changed. But it is also wrong. We should have shared this with the galaxy. We had no right to keep it for ourselves. It was not about right or wrong, Baum said. His voice was rough with fatigue. It was about survival. The moment other civilizations learn about the archive, they will come for it, all of them, and humanity will be crushed in the middle. Then we should make allies, Ji-won argued. Share the knowledge. Work together. And who decides what to share? Hanyul asked quietly. Who decides which civilizations get access to weapons that can destroy stars? Do you trust everyone to use this knowledge wisely? Ji-won had no answer. The room fell silent. Taejin stood. We need a plan. The Remnant Seekers will find the archive eventually. We need to buy time. Send them looking in the wrong direction. You want to lie to them? Ji-won asked. I want to protect billions of lives, Taejin said firmly. If that means deception, then yes. They worked through the night creating false data. Fake coordinates pointing to an empty sector. Ancient ruins that might look convincing. They would tell the Remnant Seekers that human scouts had found old wreckage there. It might not work for long, but it might give them time. Meanwhile, Ambassador Kresh was conducting her own investigation. The Vrin were masters of intelligence gathering. She had noticed things. Strange energy readings. Ships traveling to coordinates that did not appear on any official maps. Communication protocols that referenced something called archive security. She gathered her findings and confronted Taejin in his office. She placed a data pad on his desk. The evidence was damning. You have the archive, she said simply. Humans found it. You have been using it. Taejin looked at the data. There was no point denying it anymore. He met her black eyes. Yes, Kresh sat down slowly. Do you understand what you have done? This discovery belongs to everyone. You have stolen from the entire galaxy. We protected the galaxy, Taejin said. There are things in the archive that should never be used. Things that would destroy civilizations. That is not your decision to make alone. Then what would you have us do? Give the archive to whoever asks? Watch as they fight over it? Watch as someone activates the synthesis and tears reality apart. Kresh was quiet for a long moment. She was angry, but she was also intelligent. She understood the problem. There is another way, she said finally. A coalition. Multiple civilizations working together to guard the archive, to study it safely, to share what can be shared and lock away what cannot. And you think that would work? You think civilizations can cooperate when so much power is at stake? I think it is better than the alternative. When I report what I have found, every civilization in the galaxy will come here. There will be war. Unless you give them a reason to work together instead of fighting. Tae-Jin wanted to believe her, but he had seen too much. He knew how quickly cooperation could turn to conflict when resources were scarce. And the archive was the ultimate resource. I will consider your proposal, he said carefully. Kresh stood. You do not have much time, Commander. If you do not act, I will be forced to broadcast my findings. The Vrin Collective has a right to know. After she left, Tae-Jin sat alone in the darkness. Every choice led to disaster. Keep the secret and eventually someone would find out. Share the secret and war would follow. Create a coalition and trust that no one would betray it. He thought about Protocol Omega, the hidden weapon system that could destroy the remnant Seeker fleet. But using it would reveal that humanity had archive technology. It would prove they had been lying. The next morning, sensors detected something. The remnant Seekers had found an energy signature, a faint trace of archive technology. They were moving toward its source. They had found it. The archive itself. Tae-Jin gave the false coordinates to Primarch Veloth, the leader of the remnant Seekers. Veloth listened to the report. He studied the data. Then he simply said, "No, you are lying to me, human. We have detected the true location. We are going there now. If you attempt to stop us, we will destroy you." The 7 dark ships began moving. They were heading directly toward the archive. Ji-Won looked at Tae-Jin, waiting for orders. Bomb stood ready in engineering. Hanul watched from the science station, her hands shaking. Tae-Jin took a deep breath. All ships, battle stations. Activate defensive systems. Are we really going to fight them? Ji-Won asked. We are going to protect what we must protect, Tae-Jin said, even if it costs us everything. The remnant Seekers opened fire first. Their weapons were powerful, ripping through space with deadly accuracy. Human ships fired back. The battle had begun, but the human weapons were not enough. The remnant ships had shields that absorbed most of the damage. They were pushing forward, unstoppable. Tae-Jin received another message from High Command. 3 words, activate Protocol Omega. He looked at his crew, at Ji-Won, who was beginning to understand the terrible weight of command, at Hanul, who had learned the price of knowledge, at Bomb, who had carried this burden for so long. Protocol Omega, Tae-Jin said quietly into his communicator. Authorization Tae-Jin Alpha 79. Deep within Sentinel Station Gamma, something ancient stirred. Technology that should not exist in this time, power drawn from the archive itself. The station began to glow with an eerie light, and then it released a pulse that would change everything. The quantum pulse erupted from Sentinel Station Gamma like a wave of invisible fire. It swept across space in an instant. When it touched the 7 remnant Seeker ships, something impossible happened. The ships did not explode. They did not burn. They simply stopped existing. One moment they were there, massive and threatening. The next moment there was only empty space. Not even debris remained. The quantum disruptor had erased them completely. On the bridge, everyone stared at the screens in shock. Even Commander Tae-Jin, who knew what Protocol Omega could do, felt sick. 7 ships. Thousands of lives. Gone in a heartbeat, Lieutenant Ji-Won turned to look at him. Her face was pale. Now she understood. This was why the commanders had been so afraid. This was the kind of power the archive held. Power to erase entire fleets. Power that no one should have. Ambassador Kresh stood frozen at the back of the bridge. She had felt the pulse. Every sensor on her ship had recorded it. And she knew what it meant. Humans had used technology that should not exist. Technology from the archive. What have you done? She whispered. Tae-Jin did not turn to face her. What we had to do. That pulse will be detected across dozens of systems. Every major civilization will know something happened here. They will all come to investigate. I know. Engineer Bomb appeared on the communication screen from the engine room. His face was grim. Commander, I am getting reports from all our monitoring stations. Multiple alien fleets are changing course. They are all heading toward this sector. Tae-jin closed his eyes. How long until they arrive? The fastest fleets will be here in 3 days. 3 days. That was all the time they had before everything changed forever. Dr. Hanul had left the bridge during the battle. She had returned to her lab, digging deeper into the archive's data. There had to be something they were missing. Some way to prevent the coming disaster. That was when she found it. Hidden deep in the files about the synthesis, a warning from the ancient civilization, not just about the danger of the synthesis itself, but about why they had built the archive in the first place. The precursors had not meant the archive to be a gift. They had meant it to be a tomb. A warning to anyone who came after. They had discovered the synthesis and used it, believing they could ascend to a higher form of existence. Instead, they had destroyed themselves. Their civilization had collapsed as their consciousness fragmented across infinite dimensions. The archive was their final message. Do not make our mistake. Do not reach for power you cannot control. Hanul ran to find Tae-jin. She found him in his quarters, staring out at the stars. The remnant seekers, she said breathlessly. They were not trying to preserve their heritage. They wanted to use the synthesis. They wanted to restore their civilization to what it was before the collapse. Tae-jin nodded slowly. I suspected as much. That is why we could not let them reach the archive. But do you not see? This will happen again. Someone else will come looking for it. Someone else will want to use the synthesis. As long as the archive exists, this cycle will continue. Before Tae-jin could respond, an urgent message came from Earth. President Kyung-mi herself appeared on his private screen. She looked exhausted. Commander, we have a situation. The Galactic Council has called an emergency session. They are demanding answers about the quantum pulse. Multiple civilizations are mobilizing their fleets. What are your orders, Madam President? Kyung-mi was silent for a moment. Then she made a decision that would change everything. I am going to tell them the truth. All of it about the archive. About our secrecy. About the dangers. We cannot hide anymore. If we try, there will be war. But if we are honest, if we offer cooperation instead of confrontation, maybe we can prevent the worst. Tae-jin felt a weight lift from his shoulders. 50 years of secrets. 50 years of lies, finally ending. I think that is the right decision, Madam President. I hope so, Commander. Because if it is not, humanity may not survive what comes next. The broadcast went out the next day. President Kyung-mi spoke directly to every civilization in the galaxy. She confirmed the archive's existence. She explained why humanity had kept it secret. She detailed the dangers of the synthesis, and she proposed the creation of an archive trust, where all civilizations could work together to study and protect the ancient knowledge. The response was immediate and divided. The Vrin Collective supported the proposal. Ambassador Kresh gave a statement praising humanity's courage in coming forward. But other civilizations were not so understanding. The Thalric Empire, one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy, demanded immediate access to the archive. They claimed it was their right as elders of galactic society. The Syndicate of Free Worlds called for the archive to be destroyed completely, viewing it as too dangerous to exist. The hive consciousness of Meridian expressed fascination with the synthesis, believing their collective mind could use it safely, and through it all, the fleets kept coming. Hundreds of ships, thousands, all converging on human space, all wanting the archive. On Sentinel Station Gamma, preparations continued. Ji-won was given command of a new defensive wing. Ships equipped with archive-derived technology. Powerful but not enough to stop an entire galaxy. Bomb worked around the clock to deploy more quantum disruptors. But there were not enough. There would never be enough. And then the worst possible thing happened. A message came from the archive facility itself. The main research station where human scientists studied the ancient technology. The message was brief and terrifying. This is Dr. Sung-ho. We have seized control of the facility. We are activating the synthesis. Humanity will ascend. We will become gods. Nothing can stop us now. Tae-jin felt his blood turn cold. Sung-ho. He knew that name. A brilliant scientist who had been working on the archive project for 20 years. But something had changed in him. Something had broken. The Ascension movement. A group of humans who believed they should use the synthesis. Who thought humanity could succeed where the precursors failed. And now they had taken control of the archive. Within minutes, every sensor in the galaxy detected a massive energy pulse. Not a weapon. The activation of the synthesis itself. The signal was like a beacon, showing every civilization exactly where the archive was located. The secret was finally out. Completely. Undeniably. Every alien fleet changed course, heading directly toward the archive. The race had begun, and humanity was no longer in control. Tae-Jin stood on the bridge, watching as the galaxy descended into chaos. Everything he had tried to prevent was happening. And somewhere, deep in the archive facility, humans were transforming themselves into something that should never exist. "Get me a ship," he said quietly. "I am going to the archive, and I am going to stop this, no matter what it takes." The ship carrying Commander Tae-Jin raced through space toward the archive. Dr. Hanul sat beside him, along with a strike team of 12 soldiers. They had one mission: stop the ascension movement before the synthesis destroyed everything. Behind them, the galaxy was converging on this single point. Hundreds of ships from dozens of civilizations, all heading toward the archive. Some wanted to study it. Some wanted to control it. Some wanted to destroy it. But all of them were coming. "How long until we arrive?" Tae-Jin asked the pilot. 20 minutes. "But, sir, the first alien fleets will arrive around the same time. This is going to be very dangerous, I know. Get us there as fast as you can." Hanul was studying the data from the archive facility. The energy readings were climbing rapidly. Dr. Sung-ho and his followers had already started the transformation process. "Tae-Jin, I do not think we can stop this. The synthesis is already active. They are too far into the process. Then we will find another way. We have to." Back at Sentinel Station Gamma, Lieutenant Ji-won watched as the alien fleets began to arrive. First came the Vryn vessels, their silver hulls gleaming, then the massive warships of the Thalric Empire, ancient and powerful, the organic bioships of the Hive Consciousness, the stealth cruisers of the Syndicate. More and more, until space was filled with hundreds of ships. Ambassador Kresh contacted G1 directly. "Lieutenant, you must order your fleet to stand down. If you fire on any of these vessels, it will trigger a war that will consume the entire galaxy. We are here to protect the archive. That is our duty. Then protect it by not starting a fight you cannot win. Please, G1, think about what you are doing." G1 looked at her screens. At the hundreds of ships surrounding human space. Kresh was right. If shooting started now, humanity would be destroyed in minutes. "All ships hold position. Do not fire unless fired upon." The various alien civilizations began broadcasting demands. The Thalric wanted immediate access to the archive. The Syndicate wanted it destroyed. The Hive wanted to merge with the synthesis. Everyone wanted something different. And then Tae-Jin's ship arrived at the archive facility. The facility was a massive structure built into an asteroid. From the outside it looked abandoned, but inside Tae-Jin knew reality itself was being torn apart. They docked and entered through an emergency airlock. The corridors were empty. The lights flickered, and there was a sound, a humming that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "The core is this way," Hanul said, checking her scanner. "But the energy readings are off the scale. We need to be careful." They moved deeper into the facility. As they got closer to the core, things became strange. The walls seemed to shimmer. Shadows moved in impossible directions. Time itself felt wrong, as if seconds were stretching and compressing randomly. Then they found the first of Sung-ho's followers. The person was barely recognizable as human anymore. Their body was transparent, flickering in and out of existence. Their face showed pure agony. They were caught between dimensions, their consciousness fragmenting across infinite possibilities. "Help me," the person whispered, but their voice came from multiple directions at once. They were existing in many places simultaneously, and none of them were good. Hanul felt tears on her face. "We cannot help them. They are already gone." They pressed on. The core chamber was ahead. The humming grew louder. The walls began to bend and twist, and then they saw Dr. Sung-ho. He was standing in the center of a massive chamber surrounded by glowing machinery, but he was no longer solid. His form shifted and changed. Sometimes he looked human. Sometimes he looked like pure energy. Sometimes he was multiple versions of himself existing at once. "Tae-Jin," Sung-ho said. His voice echoed strangely. "You came to stop me, but you are too late. I can see everything now. Every timeline. Every possibility. I am becoming infinite. You are dying, Taejin said. The synthesis is not ascension. It is dissolution. The precursors learned that. They destroyed themselves. You are making the same mistake. No, they were weak. We are different. Humanity is ready for this power. But even as Sung-ho spoke, his form was breaking apart. Pieces of him were vanishing into other dimensions. He was screaming. Though whether in pain or ecstasy, Taejin could not tell. Hanul checked her readings. The synthesis was cascading outward. It was spreading through the facility, converting everything it touched into the same unstable quantum state. Soon it would reach the walls. Then it would spread into space. Eventually it could consume the entire system. Taejin, we have to stop this. If we do not, it will keep spreading. How? We collapse it. Use a quantum disruptor to create a localized dimensional collapse. It will contain the synthesis and destroy the archive in the process. And anyone inside the facility? Taejin asked, though he already knew the answer. Hanul could not meet his eyes. Will not be able to escape. Taejin looked at his strike team. At Hanul. At the walls that were beginning to shimmer and dissolve. He thought about his life. About the choices that had led him here. About the secrets he had kept and the lies he had told. He had spent 15 years protecting the archive. Now he had to destroy it. And himself along with it. Get everyone back to the ship, he ordered. Everyone except me. Sir, no. We can find another way. There is no other way. Someone needs to stay and manually trigger the collapse from inside the core. It has to be me. Engineer Baum's voice came through on the radio. Commander, I am on my way. Let me do this. No, old friend. You have carried this burden long enough. It is my turn now. He turned to Hanul, handed her a data chip. These are my final orders, my testimony. Make sure the galaxy hears it. Make sure they understand why we did what we did. Hanul took the chip with shaking hands. She wanted to argue, to find another solution, but she knew there was none. Go, Taejin said gently, and tell everyone. Some doors should never be opened. They left. The strike team, Hanul, all of them running back to the ship, and Taejin stood alone in the heart of the archive, preparing to destroy the greatest discovery in human history. Commander Taejin worked quickly. His hands moved across the control panels, setting up the quantum disruptor. The machine hummed and glowed with dangerous light. Around him, the synthesis continued to spread. The walls were disappearing. Reality itself was breaking down. He recorded one final message. His voice was calm even though his hands shook. To anyone listening, my name is Commander Taejin. For 15 years I protected the archive. I kept its secrets. I lied to the galaxy, and now I am going to destroy it. Not because I want to, but because I have to. The knowledge in the archive is too dangerous. Some doors should never be opened. Some powers should never be claimed. I hope you can forgive us for what we did, and I hope you will learn from our mistakes. He paused, thought about his life, about the choices he had made, about the people he had hurt with his secrets. If I could do it again, I would do things differently. I would trust the galaxy. I would share the knowledge. But we were afraid. And fear made us keep secrets. I hope humanity can be better than we were. I hope you all can be better. He ended the recording and sent it broadcasting on all frequencies. Every ship in the system would receive it. Everyone would know the truth. Then he activated the quantum disruptor. The collapse began slowly. A point of absolute darkness appeared in the center of the chamber. It grew larger, faster, pulling everything toward it. The machines, the walls, Dr. Sung-ho and his transformed followers, all of it being drawn into a single point of compressed reality. Taejin felt the pull. His body stretched toward the darkness. It did not hurt. It felt like falling, like letting go. He closed his eyes and thought about the stars. Beautiful and cold and eternal. And then the archive was gone. Outside, every ship in the system detected the implosion, a massive burst of energy. Then nothing. Where the archive had been, there was now only a small region of unstable space, a scar on reality that would never heal. On the human ship that had brought Taejin to the archive, Dr. Hanul watched the screens through tears. She clutched the data chip he had given her. His final message, his testimony. Engineer Baum sat beside her. He said nothing. There were no words. They had lost their commander, their friend, the man who had carried the weight of humanity's greatest secret. Lieutenant Jiwan received the news at Sentinel Station Gamma. She stood on the bridge, surrounded by hundreds of alien ships. All of them had witnessed the destruction. All of them had heard Tae-Jin's final message. The Thalric commander contacted her. His voice was heavy. "We came here for power, for knowledge. But your commander showed us something more important. He showed us wisdom. The wisdom to know when to let go. My fleet is withdrawing. The Thalric Empire will honor his sacrifice." One by one, the alien civilizations made similar statements. The Vren, the Syndicate, even the Hive Consciousness. They had all heard Tae-Jin's words, and they understood. Not all of them left immediately. Some stayed to study the collapsed region, to learn what they could from what remained. But the threat of war was over. The race for the archive had ended before it could truly begin. Ambassador Kresh came to Jiwan's quarters that evening. She found the young lieutenant staring out at the stars. He was a good man. He carried a terrible burden, and in the end, he chose to save us all. Jiwan nodded. She felt different now, older somehow. She understood what Tae-Jin had been protecting, why he had been so cautious, why he had kept secrets. Was he right to hide the archive for so long? Kresh considered the question. "I do not know. Perhaps he should have been more open. Perhaps he should have trusted us sooner. But I understand his fear. When you hold something that powerful, trust becomes very difficult. What happens now? Now we rebuild. We create the coalition your president proposed. We work together to ensure this never happens again. And we remember what your commander taught us, that the greatest strength is not in holding power, but in knowing when to release it." In the weeks that followed, the Galactic Council convened. Every major civilization sent representatives. President Kyung-mi attended in person, along with Dr. Hanul and several human scientists. The debate was long and difficult. Some civilizations still wanted access to whatever archive data humanity had saved. Others wanted assurances that nothing like this would happen again. But slowly, painfully, they worked toward agreement. The Galactic Compact was signed 3 months after the archive's destruction. It established rules for any future discoveries of ancient technology. Transparency, shared research, mutual safeguards. No single species could claim ownership of precursor knowledge again. It was not perfect, but it was a start. Hanul presented the data that humanity had saved from the archive. Medical technologies, clean energy systems, agricultural advances, things that could help billions of people, but nothing about the synthesis, nothing about the weapons. Those secrets had died with the archive. The galaxy began to change. The shared knowledge led to new cooperation. Old enemies found reasons to work together. The threat of the synthesis had brought them to the edge of war, but the loss of the archive had shown them a different path. At the site where the archive had been, a memorial was built. Representatives from every civilization contributed. It was simple. A monument of dark stone with a single inscription in dozens of languages. Here stood a door to infinite knowledge. It was closed not by enemies, but by those wise enough to recognize that not all doors should be opened. May we remember that the greatest power is not in what we can do, but in what we choose not to do. Dr. Hanul visited the memorial 1 year after the archive's destruction. She stood alone before the stone thinking about Tae-Jin, about Baum, who had retired after everything, about all the people who had carried the weight of secrets. A young Vrin researcher approached her. Her name was Sora. She had been assigned to work with Hanul at the new Galactic Institute for Precursor Studies. "Do you regret it? That the archive was destroyed?" Hanul thought carefully before answering. "I regret the lives lost. I regret the circumstances that led to it. But destroy the archive? No, we passed a test that day. We proved we could put wisdom above greed. That might have saved us all. Do you think humanity was special? That you were meant to find it?" Hanul smiled sadly. "No. We were just lucky, or unlucky. Any civilization could have found it. The question is not who found it, but what they did with it. Humanity's secret was not the archive itself. It was our fear of what we might become if we used it carelessly. And that fear is what we have given the galaxy now. The understanding that some powers are too dangerous to wield, that is Commander Tae-Jin's legacy. Not that we were strong enough to keep secrets, but that we were wise enough to destroy them when necessary." They stood together in silence, looking at the memorial. at the words carved in stone, at the promise of a better future built on the ashes of the past. The stars watched them, cold and distant, and in the darkness between worlds, secrets remained, waiting, always waiting. 10 years had passed since the archive's destruction. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The shared knowledge from the archive had sparked a new golden age. Diseases that had plagued civilizations for centuries were cured. Energy was abundant and clean. Food shortages became a thing of the past, but more than technology had changed. The civilizations of the galaxy had learned to work together. The crisis at the border of known space had shown them that cooperation was possible, that old enemies could become allies when faced with something greater than themselves. Dr. Hanul now led the Galactic Institute for Precursor Studies. She worked with scientists from dozens of species, studying the ancient civilizations that had come before. They were careful, always careful. The lessons of the archive were never forgotten. Captain G1 commanded a joint exploration fleet, humans and Vryn working side by side, exploring the unknown regions. She had risen through the ranks quickly, respected for her courage and her wisdom. She understood now what Taejin had known. That true strength came not from weapons, but from knowing when not to use them. Engineer Baum had retired to a quiet colony on the edge of human space. But he stayed in touch with Hanul. They sent messages to each other, remembering the old days. Remembering Taejin, making sure his sacrifice was never forgotten. Ambassador Kresh had become the first director of the Galactic Compact Commission. She oversaw the protocols for ancient discoveries. She ensured that no civilization tried to claim precursor knowledge for themselves. It was demanding work, but she did it with patience and skill. The galaxy was at peace, not perfect peace. There were still conflicts, still disagreements, but the major civilizations worked together now. They had learned the value of cooperation, but Hanul carried a secret that kept her awake at night, a secret that weighed on her like a stone. In her private quarters, locked in a quantum-encrypted vault, was a small data crystal. It contained something she had never told anyone about, something that Taejin had given her just before the end, the complete blueprints of the archive, everything needed to rebuild it. Taejin had hidden the data before activating the quantum disruptor. He had transferred it to Hanul's personal systems without her knowledge. She had not discovered it until months after his death, when she was sorting through her files. Along with the blueprints was a message, his final words to her alone. Hanul, if you are reading this, then I am gone and the archive is destroyed. I hope that was the right choice. I believe it was. But I also know that the future is uncertain. There may come a day when the galaxy faces a threat so great that we need the archive's knowledge again. A threat we cannot face without it. If that day comes, you have the means to rebuild what we destroyed. But the choice is yours. Trust your judgment. Trust your heart. And remember that the test is never over. We must always choose between power and wisdom. I chose wisdom. I hope you will too. But if you must choose power, then use it well. Goodbye, my friend. Take care of the stars for me. Hanul had read that message 1,000 times. She had stood before the vault countless nights thinking about what to do. She could destroy the crystal, ensure that the archive's knowledge was lost forever. Or she could keep it, hold on to it as insurance against an uncertain future. In the end, she had kept it, not because she wanted to, but because Taejin had trusted her to make that choice, and she could not bring herself to throw away his final gift. Tonight, she sat in her quarters on a research station orbiting a distant star. She held the crystal in her hand, watching it catch the light. Such a small thing, containing so much knowledge, so much danger. The door chimed. Sora, her Vryn assistant, entered with a concerned expression. Doctor, we have received a disturbing report. One of our deep space probes has detected something in the unknown regions. An energy signature consistent with precursor technology. Hanul felt her heart sink. Another discovery. Another test. Have you informed the Galactic Compact? Yes, they are assembling a joint research team. Multiple civilizations. Full transparency. Following all the protocols. Just as we agreed, Hanul nodded. Good. That is good. The protocols were working. The lessons had been learned. After Sora left, Hanul returned the crystal to its vault. She locked it away. For now it would stay hidden. The galaxy did not need it yet. Maybe they never would. But if the day came when they did, she would be ready. She would honor Taejin's trust. She would make the hard choice, whatever it might be. Some secrets are worth keeping. Some doors should stay closed. But the keys must be preserved. Just in case. She walked to her window and looked out at the stars. They stretched endlessly in all directions. Each one a sun. Each sun with planets. Each planet with its own story. Its own struggles. Its own choices between power and wisdom. Humanity had made its choice. They had trembled the stars with their secrets. They had brought the galaxy to the edge of disaster. And then they had stepped back, chosen wisdom over power, chosen sacrifice over domination. It was not the end of the story. It was never the end. There would always be new discoveries, new dangers, new choices to make. But for now, the galaxy was at peace, and that was enough. Captain Jiwon's exploration fleet had pushed deeper into unknown space than any expedition before. They traveled carefully, documenting everything they found. When they discovered ancient ruins, they reported them immediately. When they found unusual technology, they sealed it and called for the joint research teams. They were not just exploring. They were proving that the new way could work. That civilizations could share discoveries instead of hoarding them. That cooperation was stronger than competition. One day, her Vrin co-captain asked her a question. "Do you think we will find another archive someday?" Jiwon considered the question. Probably. The precursors were everywhere once. They must have left other facilities. Other warnings, and if we do, what then? Then we will face it together, all of us, and we will remember what Commander Taejin taught us, that the greatest courage is not in claiming power, but in refusing it when necessary. The exploration continued. The galaxy grew larger. More wonders were discovered. More dangers were found and contained. And through it all, the civilizations worked together. At the memorial where the archive had once stood, visitors came from all over the galaxy. They read the inscription. They learned the story. They remembered the sacrifice. And in a quiet vault on a research station, a small crystal waited. Hidden but not forgotten, a last gift from a dead man to a friend he trusted. A test that would never truly end, because the question was never really about the archive. It was about choice, about whether beings with the power of gods could choose to remain mortal, whether they could look at infinite knowledge and say no. Humanity had said no. They had held secrets that made the stars tremble, and then they had let those secrets go. That was the real secret, the one worth keeping, not the technology or the power, but the wisdom to know when to walk away. The stars shone on, cold and distant and beautiful, and somewhere in the darkness between them, other secrets waited, other tests, other choices to be made. But for now, the galaxy was at peace, and the border of known space stood quiet, guarded not by weapons or walls, but by memory, by the story of a commander who gave everything to save everyone, and by a promise, carved in stone, that the greatest power is not in what we can do, but in what we choose not to do. The end.